I stared at the bank statement on my laptop screen, my coffee going cold beside me. $100,000. Gone. The wire transfer had gone through while I was sitting in a conference room in Chicago, signing contracts for the company expansion. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely read the transaction details. The money had been pulled from our joint savings account, the one we'd built together over 12 years of marriage. And when I called Jennifer, my wife, asking about it, she had no idea what I was talking about. "What 100,000?" she'd asked, confusion evident in her voice. "Honey, what are you talking about?" That's when I knew something was terribly wrong. Let me back up. Life had been good. Really good. I'm Michael Chen, 38 years old, and I'd spent the last decade building a stable, predictable existence in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. My wife Jennifer and I had bought our house in Hillsdale back in 2015, a 3-bedroom craftsman with a renovated kitchen and a backyard that opened onto the Willamette River Greenway. The mortgage was manageable. Our credit scores were both in the high 700s. We'd been fortunate enough to sock away nearly $200,000 in savings, which felt like a small miracle given that we were both in our 30s when we started seriously thinking about our future. I worked as a senior product manager at Tech Venture Solutions, a mid-sized software company downtown. Nothing glamorous, but stable. Good benefits. A 401k with matching contributions. The kind of job that let me sleep at night. Jennifer was a graphic designer, mostly freelance work that she did from her home office upstairs. She had a steady roster of clients, small businesses, nonprofits, a couple of boutique agencies downtown. Between us, we made decent money. Not 6 figures each, but enough to feel secure. We'd been married for 12 years, no kids, which had been a mutual decision early on. We'd traveled a bit, nothing extravagant, a trip to Costa Rica, a week in California wine country. We hosted dinner parties. We had friends over for Super Bowl Sunday. We argued about dishes in the sink and whose turn it was to clean the bathroom. We made love maybe twice a week. We were, by any reasonable measure, a happy couple in a stable marriage. My mother-in-law, Patricia, lived about 20 minutes away in a smaller house in Lake Oswego. She'd been widowed for 8 years, and Jennifer was her only child. I got along with Patricia fine. She was kind, funny, always asking how work was going. She developed some health issues over the past couple of years. Arthritis, some respiratory problems. Nothing life-threatening, but enough that she moved slower than she used to. Complained about her joints. Jennifer would visit her most Sundays, sometimes bringing groceries or helping her with housework. Last month, I'd gotten a call about a major contract negotiation. Tech Venture was looking to expand our product line into enterprise solutions, and they wanted me to lead the effort. It meant 3 days in Chicago, back-to-back meetings with potential partners. A big opportunity. Jennifer had been supportive, even excited for me. "This is what you've been working toward," she'd said, kissing me on the forehead the morning I left. I came back on a Friday afternoon, tired but energized. The meetings had gone well, really well. We were close to signing a partnership that could mean a promotion, maybe a 10 to 15% raise. I was thinking about how I'd tell Jennifer over dinner. Maybe we'd go to that new restaurant in Pearl District she'd been wanting to try. But first, I had to handle some expense reports and account reconciliation. I pulled up our banking app while sitting at my home office desk, still in my travel clothes. That's when I saw it. The $100,000 transfer, out of our account, dated Tuesday morning, the day after I'd left for Chicago. I called Jennifer. She was downstairs working on a design project. "Hey, come up here for a second." I tried to keep my voice level. She appeared in the doorway a minute later, wearing her work glasses, her hair in a messy bun. She looked beautiful, like she always did when she was focused on something. "What's up?" she asked, walking over to my desk. "I'm looking at the bank account," I said slowly. "There's a wire transfer for $100,000 that went out on Tuesday. I just want to double-check. Did you authorize something? Maybe a big client payment or—" Jennifer's face went completely blank. She leaned over my shoulder, her eyes scanning the screen. "That's not me," she said quietly. "I don't know anything about that." I refreshed the page. The transfer was still there. Real, confirmed, processed. "Are you sure? Could it be something with one of your clients? Maybe a payment that—" Michael, I said no. Her voice had shifted, become sharper. I have no idea what that is. I didn't authorize it. I wouldn't transfer money like that without talking to you first. The way she looked at me then, not defensive but genuinely frightened, that's when the first chill ran down my spine. This wasn't a miscommunication. This wasn't a simple mistake. Okay, I said, trying to sound calm. Okay, let me call the bank. I was on hold for 17 minutes. Jennifer went back downstairs. I could hear her moving around the house, her footsteps pacing back and forth. When the bank finally connected me to someone in fraud prevention, they confirmed what I already knew. The transfer had been initiated from our account using valid credentials. It had gone to an account in the name of Patricia M. Harmon. Patricia, Jennifer's mother. Are you sure that's the account holder? I asked the bank representative, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Yes, sir. Patricia Margaret Harmon. The account is at Cascade Bank in Lake Oswego. I thanked them and hung up. My mouth was dry. I sat there in the quiet of my office, listening to the sound of my own breathing, trying to make sense of what I'd just learned. Patricia had our money, $100,000, and Jennifer had absolutely no idea why. I called Patricia's house that evening. My hands were shaking as I dialed, the phone pressed hard against my ear. Jennifer was in the kitchen, pretending not to listen, but I could feel her attention focused entirely on me. Hi, Patricia, I said when she answered, my voice steadier than I felt. It's Michael. I need to talk to you about something. It's important. There was a pause. In the background, I could hear the television, some game show with canned laughter. Of course, honey. Is everything okay? Her voice sounded normal, calm, the voice of a woman with nothing to hide. I need to ask you about a wire transfer. $100,000. It was sent to your bank account from our joint savings account on Tuesday. The silence that followed lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. I could hear Patricia's breathing change, become slightly faster. Michael, I don't know anything about that, she said carefully. That doesn't make sense. That's what Jennifer said too. So here's what's going to happen. I'm coming over to your house tomorrow morning, and we're going to figure this out together. All 3 of us. Michael, wait. I hung up. That night, Jennifer and I sat in the living room without talking. The television was on, but neither of us was watching. The weight of the unknown hung between us like fog. Around 11, Jennifer finally spoke. Do you think she did it? She asked quietly. I know she did, I said. The bank confirmed it was sent to her account. But why would she do that? Mom's not in debt. She's not desperate. She has her retirement, her Social Security. She has money. I didn't answer because I didn't know. And that uncertainty, not understanding the motivation behind the theft, somehow made it worse. The next morning, I drove to Patricia's house in Lake Oswego. It was a Saturday, overcast and cold. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where retired people lived in well-maintained ranches with neat gardens. Patricia's house was pale yellow with white trim, the yard meticulously landscaped. There was a bird feeder in the front, and the sight of it, such an innocent detail, made something twist in my chest. Jennifer followed in her car. We'd agreed to handle this together, though neither of us had really talked through what handling it meant. Patricia answered the door before we could knock. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. She was wearing a cardigan over a long-sleeved shirt, and I noticed her hands were trembling slightly. Come in, she said, stepping back. The house smelled like coffee and something floral, lavender maybe. Everything was exactly as I remembered it. The cream-colored couch, the landscape paintings on the wall, the worn leather armchair where Patricia liked to sit with her crossword puzzles. It was the house of a careful person, someone who took pride in maintaining order. Let's sit, I said, gesturing to the living room. Patricia sat in her armchair. Jennifer and I took the couch. The television was off. The house was absolutely silent except for the ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway. I want you to explain to me, I began, keeping my voice level, why you transferred $100,000 from my account to yours without asking, without permission, without telling anyone. Patricia's face crumpled, her eyes filled with tears, and she looked away. I needed it, she whispered. For what? Jennifer's voice was sharp, betrayed. "Mom, what did you need $100,000 for?" Patricia didn't answer immediately. She reached for a tissue from the box on the side table next to her chair, and her hands were shaking badly now. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "There's a man," she said. "His name is Richard Brennan. He was a friend. Someone I met at the community center about 2 years ago. We started spending time together, going to dinner, movies. He was very charming, very attentive. And She stopped, pressing the tissue to her eyes. "I was lonely. After your father died, I was so lonely, Jennifer, and Richard made me feel less alone." "Patricia," I said carefully, "did this man ask you for money?" She nodded, still not meeting our eyes. "How much did he ask for?" Jennifer's voice was thin, strained. "He said he had a business opportunity, a real estate investment that would triple our money in 6 months. He said if I could put in $100,000, we could both be comfortable. We could travel. We could retire together." Patricia's voice cracked. "He said he loved me." The room felt suddenly suffocating. I could feel the anger building in my chest, hot and sharp, but beneath it was something else, a deep, visceral sadness for this woman who'd been so thoroughly deceived. "Patricia," I said, as gently as I could manage, "did you give him the money?" She shook her head. "Not yet. I was going to, but then I started thinking. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about it, and the next morning, I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. I tried to call him, but he didn't answer. Then I realized, I suddenly understood that it was a scam, that he'd never existed. Not really, that the whole thing was a con." Jennifer stood up abruptly. "So you stole from us? From Michael and me?" "No!" Patricia's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "No, Jennifer, I didn't. I haven't touched that money. It's sitting in my account exactly as it arrived. I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you both, but I was so ashamed. I felt so stupid. And then Michael called, and I didn't know what to say." I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. I navigated to Patricia's account information, which I'd gotten from the bank when I called them that first day, and verified the transfer. The money was there, untouched, sitting in her account, waiting. "Why did you transfer it from our account in the first place?" I asked. "Why didn't you ask us?" "Because I was embarrassed," Patricia said, and now the tears were flowing freely. "I was so humiliated that I'd believed him, that I'd been so foolish. And I thought if I just did it quietly, if I just borrowed it for a few days, I could fix it before anyone knew. I thought I could pay it back without having to explain." "Mom," Jennifer said, her voice softer now, "you could have just told us. You could have come to us." "I know," Patricia whispered. "I know that now." I sat back on the couch, processing. The anger I'd been feeling was still there, but it had transformed into something more complex. Frustration, yes, but also pity. Patricia had been victimized, and then, in her shame and desperation, she'd put us in an impossible position. "I need you to understand something," I said quietly. "What you did was theft. I don't care if you were planning to pay it back, or if the money's still there. You took money that wasn't yours without permission. You broke the law. You broke our trust." "I know," Patricia said. "I know, and I'm so sorry." "Sorry isn't going to fix this," I said. "We're going to need to talk to a lawyer. We're going to need to file a police report." Patricia's face went white. "Michael, no, please, I'm sorry, I'll do anything. I'll pay you back immediately, I have savings. I'll liquidate everything." "That's what you should have done in the first place," I said, and I meant it. "Instead, you chose to steal from us." Jennifer was crying now, too, silent tears running down her cheeks. She reached over and took my hand, squeezing it tightly. "There's something else you need to know," Patricia said, her voice trembling. "Richard Brennan contacted me. After I realized it was a scam. He called me yesterday. He said he knew I'd taken money out, and if I didn't send it to him, he was going to—" She stopped, unable to continue. "He was going to what?" I asked, though I already knew. "He said he was going to tell Jennifer and you what happened. He said he had screenshots of our conversations, emails I'd sent him. He said he was going to expose me unless I paid him $50,000. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't just a case of an elderly woman being scammed. This was extortion. This was a crime on top of a crime. "We need to call the police," I said. "Today, right now." Over the next 3 weeks, things moved quickly. I filed a report with the Lake Oswego Police Department. They assigned a detective named Sarah Chen, who was sharp and thorough. She traced the phone numbers and email addresses back to a sophisticated romance scam operation run out of Nigeria. The man Patricia had been talking to wasn't real. He was one of dozens of fake personas created by a criminal enterprise that targeted lonely seniors with assets. The police recovered Patricia's phone and computer, and Detective Chen used the digital evidence to build a case. She also helped us understand that what had happened with the extortion threat was a standard tactic. Scammers often try to pressure victims into sending additional money by threatening exposure. Jennifer and I had to make a difficult decision about whether to press charges against Patricia. Technically, she'd committed theft, but she was also a victim. We talked to our lawyer, and ultimately, we decided not to pursue criminal charges. Instead, we set up a repayment plan. Patricia would pay us back $5,000 a month from her retirement and savings. It would take her 2 years to pay back the full amount, but it was a concrete path forward. Patricia also agreed to attend counseling, both individual therapy and a support group for scam victims. She was deeply humiliated, and there were days when she could barely look at Jennifer or me. But she was trying. She was doing the work of understanding how she'd become vulnerable to manipulation and what it meant to rebuild trust after breaking it so severely. The hardest part for Jennifer was the realization that her mother, the woman she'd trusted implicitly, had lied to her repeatedly over the course of 2 years. The scam had been ongoing for that long, and Patricia had hidden the entire thing. It raised questions about what else Patricia might be capable of hiding, what other secrets she might be keeping. 3 months after the initial discovery, I was home late one evening, working in my office. Jennifer came in and sat on the edge of my desk. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what you said to my mom, about how sorry isn't enough." "Yeah?" I said carefully. "I think I've been waiting for her to earn back my trust before I even try to repair our relationship. But maybe that's not how it works. Maybe I need to forgive her first, and then trust comes later." "That's generous," I said. "It's not generous," Jennifer said. "It's just, she's my mom, and she was victimized, and she made a terrible choice in the aftermath of that victimization. But she's also owned it. She's trying to fix it. I can't spend the rest of my life punishing her for one terrible mistake, even if it was a terrible mistake that directly impacted us." I pulled Jennifer close, and she rested her head on my shoulder. "She's lucky to have you," I said. "We're all lucky," Jennifer said quietly. "We could have lost everything, but we didn't, and that matters." Life moved forward. Patricia made her payments faithfully. She became more cautious online, more aware of the ways predators operate. She started volunteering at a local senior center, helping other older adults understand how to protect themselves from scams. It became her mission, in a way, to take her shame and transform it into something useful, something that could help others avoid the same trap. Jennifer and her mother rebuilt their relationship slowly, carefully. It was different now, less naive, more honest. Patricia stopped pretending that her life was perfect, and Jennifer stopped assuming that her mother had everything figured out. They became more real with each other, which paradoxically made them closer. And me? I learned that trust, once broken, doesn't simply get restored. It gets rebuilt, piece by piece, through consistent actions over time. It gets rebuilt through accountability and effort. It gets rebuilt through the willingness to forgive without forgetting. We kept our money. We moved on. But that experience changed us all. It cracked open the comfortable bubble we'd been living in and showed us that disaster can come from the most unexpected places. And it taught us that family, real, messy, complicated family, is worth fighting for, even when the fight is hard. The day Patricia made her final payment, 2 years later, she came to our house with a check. Jennifer made tea, and the 3 of us sat at the kitchen table. Patricia slid the check across to me, and I could see her hands were still trembling slightly, though whether from emotion or just age, I couldn't tell. "Thank you," she said simply, "for giving me the chance to make this right." I looked at the check, then at Patricia, then at Jennifer, and I realized that sometimes the most important things we do aren't about winning or losing, about being right or wrong. They're about choosing over and over again to stay connected to the people we love, even when they disappoint us, especially when they disappoint us.